Hello again, partners. Today we are drawing the mighty Misty Mountains. Now, usually we think of mountains far off in the distance that are tall as being kind of purpley colored. So I have a purple, and you're also going to need a ground color. So I have some green, and you're going to need a sky color. So choose at least those three, because the ground and the sky, those will be your background. And you can use the mountain color for your border if you want to, and then you can pull out some others, but those are the three main ones you need to have. Get a piece of paper and let's start our picture. All right, of course, we will start with our border. And if you see me every now and then look like I'm scooting things around, it's because the surface I'm coloring on is kind of bumpy. So I put two pieces of paper down so that I don't end up with a whole bunch of bumpy stuff under my picture. But every now and then part of it tries to peek out, so I got to squish it back in. All right, so when we're doing the letter M and we're doing the letter N, it's really important to remember, where do you start your letters? At the top. Where do you start your letters? At the top. If you're going to start a letter, then you better remember to start at the top. Now, M's, if you make them starting at the bottom, they can still kind of look kind of correct. The problem is when people forget the frog jump and they do an N gets backwards. So if we start practicing this the right way with M, then when we come to the letter N, it's really easy to do it the right way. So I'm just about down at my bottom here. I'm going to go around on the corner. There's that part. All right, I've got that side done. Now I'm going to work across the bottom here. Now what we're going to do with this, the pointy up parts of the M are going to be our mountains. And inside our mountains, we're going to make it be kind of greenish and maybe a little purple to show the misty part. And then the blue is going to go on the outside part. So it's not very hard, but make sure that you watch that part to pay attention to it. Otherwise, it can be easy to just end up with color in all sorts of different places. So I'm going up my second side here, and then I'm going to need to switch and go across the top. Now, you may have noticed that as you do your borders, your hand kind of starts to like to go in one direction and not in another. And so what students usually end up doing is turning their pages to get all the way around the edge of the border. And you can do that. I would encourage you to work on getting to eventually where your paper stays all in one place and your hand is what turns. And, you know, we've talked before about how smart fingers make for smarter brains. So if you do that, keep your paper in one place and you make your hands turn, well, then, you know, your brain just starts to make more connections. Anytime we have our body learning new things, our brain is making new connections. So it's awesome, even if your border may not look quite as pretty, to do the extra work to try to make your border without turning the paper, because then it gets your brain learning some new things. All right, now when I look at this corner and this corner, the curves seem a little bit different. So I'm going to try to make this one even up to it a little bit. All right. Now I'm going to start my mighty Misty Mountain. And of course, I start at the top. And I'm going to go down and I'm going to use this purplish color. You might use a different color, but like I said, you know, we even have songs that talk about purple mountains majesty. And when you see people draw pictures of great big tall snow-covered mountains in Colorado and California and Washington State and Alaska, often they'll draw them kind of a purplish color. So here I go with my big line down. And I think, oh, I'll go a little farther. That's probably good right there. Now, when we get here, what we have next, of course, is a frog jump. So I jump back up to the top with my little frog. And I'm going to start now. Remember this second one, we say this slides down, and you can see it going down like a slide on the playground, right? So here it goes, sliding on down. And then my next one also slides up. So there I've got my second big line sliding down. And now I'm going to slide up on my next one. And it can be hard to make the two slides kind of match each other like a mirror. I'm going to try, but I bet you're going to be able to notice that my slides are a little bit, one is probably going to be like a steeper, faster slide, and the other one will be a little more gradual. All right, I'm going to try to make the two tops match, but sometimes one gets taller than the other. That's okay. All right, and now this line, a lot of people will make it kind of sloping down. We're going to try to make this part of our mountain go straight down, just like this part does over here. So it's a nice, strong, solid mountain M. And you can imagine if we have those gray boxes, right? This M would fit right into a gray box, like we use for handwriting, like you've been doing with numbers, and we've been doing on our pieces of scrap paper. Now, when you look at my mountains here, can you see, despite my trying, I ended up with one bigger than another one, didn't I? And that's okay. We just do our best. Now, I want you to take your ground color. I'm using green for grass. And I want you to kind of go across here at the bottom of the M. And down here's our ground, right? Well, now we have to look at our mountains also. This part of our mountain sticking up is also ground, isn't it? So go ahead and take that ground color and make it go up in that, in that mountain. There it is. All right. Now, take that ground color and make it go up in this side of the mountain, because this is another mountain peak, right? We have Mighty Misty Mountains. There's more than one, just like the first and second graders have been studying adding S and ES onto words to make them be more than one. We have more than one mountain right here. We have mountains. So I'm going to put my green grass up onto this mountain also. There it is. Now, sometimes students like to get fancy and they like to draw the path up to the mountains and put, I don't know, clouds and birds and a sunshine in the sky. You can do those sorts of things, but I like to make sure that we're focused on where our ground goes and where our sky goes. I'm going to add some over here, and then I'm going to go down this way, because all of this here now is going to be my ground under the mountains. So here I go on my mountains down here. I'm going to fill in the ground part. All right, and just in case you wanted to try it, I'll go ahead and add in here a little dirt-covered trail, right? I suppose you could draw trees and all sorts of things. And of course, I have to mix my colors. So I'm going to make some brown here and then put some gray on it. And of course, you guys can just be coloring this whole thing green. That is fine. Or if you decided your ground color was going to be brown, you can be coloring all of this brown. I just was thinking I'll put a little trail in here that the prince and the lavender lady will be walking on. All right, whoops, that's brown. I need my green grass color back here. Oops, that's why. I was getting a really sharp line. That was because I was coloring with the other end of the pencil. Sometimes I like sharp lines, but right here I'm hoping to get smoother lines. All right, so I'm going to take a little break in just a moment from doing my ground color, and I'm going to switch to talking about some sky things here. So if you want to finish your ground color, you can pause the video and go ahead and do that. Or if you want to switch with me to sky right now, you can, and then we'll come back to the ground color. So I'm going to switch to my blue sky color. Here's my ground. Now I'm going to be putting in sky, right? So I'm going to put some in right here because all of this is in between the mountains where the sky is. So here I've got some sky color coming down in the pointy part of my M. All right. Now, like I said, sometimes students like to add in clouds and sunshines and birds and things like that. But when I think of these mountains, I'm really thinking about them being sort of covered in mist and fog like we get on our mountains around here sometimes. And so I don't usually think of clouds and sunshine going with that. You can do that if you want to. But what I often do is I get this kind of blue color and I color my whole sky this blue, misty, foggy color. And then I'm going to try to add a little fog onto the mountains themselves. And I'll show you what that looks like once I get my sky done here. So sometimes I use this blue color. I think I will today because I kind of feel like this blue color really looks like a foggy, misty color. And sometimes I do it with the purple. And I might end up mixing both colors in to make my mistiness. All right, so I've got that top part all done around there. And now I'm going to start coming down here along the side of this mountain, like so, all the way down to my green grass down at the bottom of the mountain. All right, I'm just about down there. All right, there's my sky over there. And I think from here, I'm going to go ahead and color my sky up from the bottom instead of down from the top, just to do something a little bit different. Give my brain a little something new to think about. And I'm going to go up this side, and you can see, while I'm kind of doing it quickly, I'm not really scribbling, am I? I'm trying to make sure that my crayon keeps going back and forth and fills in all those white spaces. So if it's taking a little longer, that's fine. Look to try to have some nice solid colors filled in there. All right, and I am about to need to peel some paper off of this crayon because I keep hearing the paper rubbing. All right, so here it is. And now when I look at this part, if I think about having some mist on it, I'm going to just use this really, really lightly on top of my green, just a little bit. And it gives it just a little bit of a misty look, but not very much. You can see I'm not coloring dark blue on top of my green, just adding a teensy bit of it. And you hardly even notice it, but when you look at this side and this side, you can see this side maybe look a little rainier or mistier. If you want to try to compare, you can try your purple on the other side. The same way, just really light, almost so you don't even notice that the purple is there. But it's just going to make it seem a little rainier and mistier if you want to. You certainly don't have to. If you like having it bright green, that's fine. Even on misty mountains, sometimes I suppose you get beautiful, bright, sunshiny days. All right. So there's my mist on that side and this side. And now all I have left to do is finish a little bit of my ground here on the other side of my path. So I'm going to just fill this all in right around my path here. I made my path kind of curvy because, you know, paths in the woods, they go straight for a little while, but not for very long. You guys probably remember that. We've walked in the woods a little bit, and the path is kind of straight, but it goes up and down a little bit, and it turns a little bit, wobbles around some. So I didn't make my path very straight either. You know, things in the woods, you never know if you're going to need to walk around a rock or go around a tree or something like that. Maybe you'll find a groundhog hole and you need to walk around it. Or some poison ivy. You definitely want to walk around poison ivy, huh? All right. I've got my edges all done, and now I'm just filling in this last little bit of green, and then I will have my Mighty Misty Mountains. All right, here, right up to the bottom of the mountains, and down on in here. All right, my Mighty Misty Mountains. You're probably just about done with yours if you aren't already finished. Go ahead and make sure you have it saved in a safe place at home so that when they're all finished, you can make your alphabet book. I'll see you guys later.